Welcome back to the Sense of Life podcast. I'm Joe,
And I'm Cody.
and I'm back after a 2 week hiatus there. A planned 1 week
Yeah.
one that turned into two when I got the flu and was not good. It was like the Saturday of that weekend. I messaged Cody and I was like, I think I might have the flu because my sister had it before me, and I started feeling a little sick. And then by the end of that day, it was like, yeah, no, I can't do anything this weekend. So that was a last minute solo episode on that one. But you pulled through with the Javier Bardem
Yep.
on that one. And
It was a double feature of a couple of romance movies starring Javier Bardem and Penelope Cruz.
mhm. And but yeah, I'm back now, and we're coming at you with some François Truffaut.
Yep.
Two feature films and one a 30-minute segment from I think it was five shorts. Was it
That
five?
sounds right.
Yeah, five. Uh, Love at 20 is the name of the collection.
Yes. Had other segments from Shintaro Ishihara, which we just found out was a hard right-wing Japanese
Yeah.
politician. Marcel Ophuls, Renzo Rossellini, and Andre Vajda, who we covered on an episode before, a Polish filmmaker. But weirdly, Criterion only seems to have the Truffaut segment, which is Antoine and Colette.
Yeah.
If I could talk.
Yeah, no, that was baffling. When we were looking at who the other directors were, I was like, "Oh, who's this Shintaro Ishihara guy?" And I clicked on it, and he really isn't that prolific in the cinema field, but was the governor of Tokyo for 13 years and the leader of a far right Japanese nationalist party.
Yeah.
And the just to briefly comment on this before we get to the actual movies, his Wikipedia has the sentence: an ultranationalist, he was infamous for his misogynistic comments, racist remarks, xenophobic views, and hatred of Chinese and Koreans. He was also a denier of the Nanjing massacre. So that's just throwing that one in there too. They got all the hyperlinks to everything. They apparently he was using some fucking antiquated pejorative term for Chinese and Koreans. I was like, wow, that's a good thing to know right before we start the episode.
Yeah, I think we did an episode on Ryu Murakami, and doing research about him, we just found out he was mildly right wing and liked Trump.
Yeah. It's always great when you just stumble upon you're like, oh, what's this guy all about? And then he's got an insane, huge Wikipedia link with
filled
1,000
with
different
hyperlinks.
yeah, 1,000 different subsections for his political views and controversies and stuff.
Yeah.
But we're
So
not
what
here
I'm
to
saying
talk
is
about
he's a little too based.
yeah,
you might
a
say.
little too much. The fact that a guy like that was governor of Tokyo until 2012 is kind of crazy to me.
Maybe he mellowed out in his later years.
Maybe. Or he just got even worse. And the people loved him for it. But yeah, Francois Truffaut. The three, I guess, well, we'll say three, but it's really two and a quarter.
Right.
The three movies we got today are The 400 Blows, Antoine and Colette, which is the segment from Love at 20, and Stolen Kisses, which came out in 1968, and 400
Antoine
Blows came out
Colette
in
was 62.
and the 400 Blows came out in 1959. So
Yes.
almost a decade between the first and third movie. Though I do believe we are doing 2 more movies next week that are a part of this same saga following the same character, right?
Yes. So Truffaut, the 400 Blows, I believe, is his first feature. I want to say, and he is kind of a leading figure in what became known as the Nouvelle Vague, the French New Wave. We talked a little bit about it on the Godard episode we did.
Right.
Um, I guess you could say like Godard and Truffaut are like the fountainheads maybe of the French New Wave. Um, he famously collected a series of interviews with Alfred Hitchcock called Hitchcock Truffaut, um, and this series of movies is following this semi-autobiographical character named Antoine. What was his name?
Antoine Doinel. He says it in the mirror
Antoine
like
Doinel.
50
Yes,
times in a
yes.
row. And at one part, I was like, well, at least we won't forget how to say his name.
And then I forgot how to say his name.
Yeah.
Like a lot of pretty much all of those French New Wave guys, like Chabrol, Rivette, um, Godard. He was a critic first. Uh, I guess maybe he had like a if this series of like adventure movies is anything to go off. He must have had some kind of like crazy life that he was dealing with. Um, I meant to revisit some of his essays. I have a collection of Cahiers du Cinema books, but I didn't get around to it. And yeah, he was probably the key guy in the French New Wave that was responsible for reevaluating Hitchcock as a great artist rather than just a kind of maker of quote unquote pot boilers or whatever. Which I looked up that term pot boiler. I mentioned it on the podcast once before. I can't remember if it was recently or not.
Yeah.
But I looked it up because I thought like the name pot boiler was like a had to do with like tension, like you got two people in one room and it's waiting for something to explode. That's not what it is. It's about literally boiling a pot to make food.
Yeah.
So a pot boiler is you make this thing to put food on the table.
Ah,
It's a weird metaphor.
that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm not sure why
But it was
that's
like,
connected to anything I was saying,
a
but
watched pot never boils. You know, you watch the movie and nothing happens.
yeah, yeah. um,
That's the alternate reading of that term that I just made up.
uh, this is kind of interesting. He was 8 years old when he saw his first movie. Abel Gance, who is a kind of renowned early silent French filmmaker, directed the Napoleon like 7 hour
Right, yeah.
silent film. He watched his movie of Paradise Lost from 1939, which that sounds kind of dope. Um, yeah, he was a big fan of John Ford, Howard Hawks, Nicholas Ray, as well as, of course, Alfred Hitchcock. Um, just kind of going through the basic stuff, and he was supporting Andre Bazin. I don't know. He's the guy that the 400 Blows is dedicated to, and he also founded Cahiers du Cinema.
Right.
Um,
Despite living near Quebec and there being French people in northern New Brunswick, I fucking can't pronounce anything French. So the fact that I can get Antoine Doinel out is as good as it's gonna get for this fucking this thing.
yeah, and Joe turns out to be more American than me.
uh, but yeah, we watched these in the order of their release.
Yes.
So I guess do we want to just start with the 400 blows?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
we watched this with Chandler, friend of the podcast. I assume he's going to comment on this video. He said he would be watching.
hell yeah.
Um,
Shout out.
And Buffo the art clown out there. I hope you comment gay on this video too. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Really appreciate
Even like
your
gayest.
remarks.
Yeah. And you also learning the difference between previous and subsequent. That was quite the plot line.
Damn.
Good times. The 400 Blows. It's kind of. I don't know if it was the first in the quote unquote French New Wave, but it's kind of one of the key pieces alongside Godard's Breathless with starting it off.
Yeah.
It is a coming of age drama, which we have done a lot of this year.
Yeah, we've been on a coming of age grind this year.
Yeah. I think coming of age is probably just one of my favorite genres of things. Not even just movies. Like I love like that word Bildungsroman, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense because like the coming of age story is it is by necessity you're going to have a character that is going through some sort of dramatic shift or change in their character.
Yeah.
It is rife. It is what is the term here? It is a kind of story that is there's a lot of opportunity
fertile ground
for good storytelling, and a
yeah.
lot of people have taken advantage of that because there are some really good coming of age stories out there, including this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
On
the main character, Antoine Doinel, is played by Jean-Pierre
Leod?
yeah, we'll say that. A lot of he's got all the fucking vowels in his last name. And they're all in a row. So that's great.
One of those 3 vowel motherfuckers, yeah. Jean-Pierre Léaud.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say.
Yeah,
we'll
yeah.
go with that.
And he plays the same character throughout all these movies, so
yeah,
it's kind of neat to see him actually like growing up as you watch the movies.
Friend of the pod Mike made a connection to that Richard Linklater movie Boyhood, which is just one movie that shows someone growing up.
Yeah, that would be
and
weird to experience.
Like 12 years or something. Yeah.
You don't get like any return on the investment of having been an actor in the movie until you're already an adult.
Yeah.
Like, your resume is you acted in a couple scenes for a movie that hasn't come out, that's going to come out when you're like 22 or something.
Well, I think it came out when he was like 15. I think it only covered like 12, 13 years of his life.
Oh, okay. I didn't know how young he was at the start of the movie. So
yeah, it's just about boyhood. It's
right.
Man,
that makes sense.
Yeah. And so is this.
Yeah.
I'm sure Linklater. I believe I've heard him talk about the 400 Blows, but I feel like this would be something that he was up his alley.
Yeah, I really like these sort of movies that really they just put you in the shoes of someone observing what things would be like in the decade of when the film is set, or when the film is made rather, because this is just like, you know, you've got the everyone including children smoking cigarettes, you've got like weaving between cars, just running into the street. You've got all the buildings of the time. You know, it encapsulates. It's like a time capsule of things, almost better than just like someone recording. Like you've seen those videos where it's like a fucking camera.
High school in 1994. Yeah,
or like a camera that is on like a fucking horse carriage going down the streets in like 1910 New York or something or whatever.
Yeah,
like those kind of things.
Or that like video of like a 1908 snowball fight colorized or something.
Yeah, and they add the shitty like they like interpolate the footage and make it 60 FPS, so you've got like awful fucking. It just looks like shit. I keep seeing things on Twitter where people are like, I don't get why people don't like this. And they posted like the fight at the end of The Revenge of the Sith, but upscaled to 60 FPS, and it looks like ass. Like I don't know. It, I honestly I think it's just a consequence of video games where people
Yeah,
are like obsessed with having 60 frames per second in their game. But the difference between a game and a movie is that a game is not making up fake data between the frames that are being added when you have a higher FPS. But a
yeah,
movie is. There was only 24 frames that were captured by the camera. You're adding a bunch of filler, and that's all that
yeah. So
is.
that other 36 frames have to just be made up on the spot,
Yeah. Uh,
and they don't exist. So it looks psychotic and evil. Yeah,
and warped. Um, but yeah, the whole vibe of this movie was great. Uh,
yeah,
it's kind of like Taxi Driver in that way that it makes you want to just not.
yeah.
I just like it puts you in what what New York was in the 70s. I mean,
Right. Yeah,
not
yeah,
like this kid is a fucking psychopath like Travis Bickle.
yeah. Someone shot the president in order to impress Jean-Pierre Léaud
Ugh.
in Minecraft. I don't know. Uh, um, yeah, I really like this movie. It was really cool. Um, no, that's not all I have to say about it.
Yeah, we're off to
Just
a
trying to
great
figure out
start.
where to start,
Yeah, I mean,
and we can
it's kind
cut
of
this
just like
out if
a
we need
story
to.
about a
But
very uh, dysfunctional life that this small child has. He's probably not a
yeah,
small child. He's like 12, I think, which is still a small
something
child,
like
but
that.
not like
Yeah,
a fucking like 7-year-old or something.
yeah, yeah,
And it really takes the time to show you like, yeah, no, his home life is really shit. His teacher is like the first thing you really see in this movie is his teacher like being a dick.
yeah, yeah.
And like
And
not
it's really
just to him,
funny.
but just like indiscriminately like getting the guy to wipe down the wall, and he's like yelling at
Yeah,
the other students. And
yeah. The opening part of the movie it goes on a long time. It feels like 20 minutes or something. Like
yeah,
it's all in this classroom, and like what you were saying about being at a certain place in a certain time with like Taxi Driver and stuff like that. Um, it speaks to this idea that all movies are documentaries, in that they document a performance, they document a specific period of time, even if it's not directly the goal of the piece or whatever.
yeah.
Which I think is an interesting idea about film. There, he really loves Honoré de Balzac, the French novelist, not to be confused with Balzac, which is what everyone in the server thought I was saying when I said Balzac.
Yeah, yeah. I I have no comment on that. I think I was one of
Um,
those people. Um,
the he's best known for the, I want to say it's the human comedy La Comida Humanity something. Um, I'm
that
I'm
sounds
I'm,
French.
ta- I'm taking French on Duolingo, guys.
Yeah,
Um, for reasons unknown to me, to be going honest at this point. um,
yeah. My
the
my years of French in school didn't serve me at all with this movie. I would recognize a word every like 5 minutes and be like, "Hey, look at that! I recognize that word."
Yeah, I recognize like them saying like La Femme as wife, and
Right? I didn't even register that.
like s'il vous plaît,
Right,
please,
right.
stuff like that.
Sacre bleu.
Yeah.
Yeah. uh, but yeah, the kind of the entire thing of the movie is it shows you everything that is like wrong around the around this child, and then uh him acting out in
Yeah.
ways that a child who has had no real actual guidance would. Um, but even so, when he does things that are wrong, there are many points where he's not doing it maliciously, or he even tries to make things right, and that's what gets him caught and ruins like it just puts him even deeper. Um, like when he steals the typewriter from his dad's office when he's trying to run away, uh, and he decides to bring it back, and he gets caught bringing it back as opposed to when he was stealing it.
Right.
And it's a pretty tragic story in that sense. I'm not sure
Yeah.
how the whole arc is going to end because there's still 2 more movies in the whole saga of the life of this character.
Yeah, I like that the whole series is structured like an adventure novel, like
Yeah.
like a Mark Twain, something like that. I think I read like Tom Sawyer or Huck Finn in high school or something, and I don't remember much about it. I recently re-listened to this episode of The Perfume Nationalist that he did with Mike White, the filmmaker, who did The White Lotus.
Mm-hmm.
Um, who and they talked about Huckleberry Finn. I can't talk today.
Perfect day to record a
And
podcast. Day you can't talk.
yeah, so just interpret my ramblings, and between watching this and listening to that podcast makes me want to read Huck Finn and some Mark Twain. There was I described that to who we talked about, Chandler, who we mentioned earlier, and he was like, "Isn't that like a sequel? Like there's some kind of like Marvel Universe thing?"
Yeah.
And the joke of Nick Fury showing up at the end, but he's actually just called the N-word.
There's a character named N-word Jim
Yeah,
in the book. So
yeah.
Sam Jackson plays him in this hypothetical MCU
Yes.
scenario.
I want to talk to you about the N-word initiative.
Jesus Christ.
Avenger with the hard R.
That is fucked up.
What up, my Avengers?
Yeah.
So he quits school.
Yeah, the
Actually,
scene where
this
he's like talking to his friend and he says, he's like, "Yeah, I don't see any other way around. I'm gonna have to run away."
yeah,
It's
he
like
just comes to this conclusion, and it's like, yeah, sure, that makes sense.
yeah, like the
Just run away.
quintessential little kid thing of like, I'm gonna run away.
my parents hate me. I want to run away.
Yeah, I
But
think
he
when I
actually
was a
does
very
it.
small child, I tried to run away, but I got to the end of the driveway and there was a bee's nest, and I quickly turned around and came home.
When
I
I was a
understood the
kid,
error of my ways once I encountered the bees.
when I was a kid, it wasn't so much running away. I was just quite young and like retarded,
Yeah.
and I was at my grandparents' house, and at one point I just disappear,
Oh
and no
yeah.
one can find me, and like everyone starts panicking. But about 20 minutes later, they find me in a neighbor's yard playing in their like a sand pit thing.
You were like, there was a sand pit.
I wouldn't you go too?
I've been conditioned to see this as a thing that you play in, so naturally that's where I went.
Yeah, the post-structuralist interpretation of my being a child. I've been conditioned by
You've been
society.
conditioned by society to view sand as a safe place to play.
Yeah.
And so naturally, you stole a typewriter to fund
Yeah.
your
My sand playing.
yeah. And yeah,
There's a specific scene, like at one point he's reading, I think what I can't remember the name of the novel. It's a Balzac novel, which a 12-year-old reading Balzac is like kind of baller, to be honest, because
yeah, and
nobody can get through
the
fucking Magic Treehouse anymore. And
the specific scene he was referencing or that he was reading that they show you is like a character's death, and he kind of uh takes, I don't even know if he intentionally plagiarizes it or not, like it wasn't really clear in the movie, but
like
it seemed to be that like he took it to heart and thought that it really meant something. And then
Yeah.
when he had to write about something that happened to him, because I think the assignment was to write about something that affected you or something, and he
Yeah.
wrote about his grandfather dying, he paraphrased um the entire sequence basically about this character's death, um and the teacher was basically like, yeah, you're a fucking plagiarist, you little shit. You're done.
Yeah.
And
um
that was the beginning of the end right there.
yeah,
First you plagiarize and then you steal a typewriter. That is.
the plagiarism to theft pipeline is real.
First you steal
Uh,
the intellectual property, then you move on to the physical. It always
yeah.
happens.
Many such cases.
Yeah. And
Um,
he ends up getting arrested um while trying to return the typewriter, and
yeah.
he I think at that point the uh like things just get progressively worse and worse, and he's put in a like a detention center for
Yeah.
the like a juvenile detention center, and
Mhm.
um it kind of was like he the other children uh were, well, at least one of them was kind of impressed with him stealing or one of he wasn't impressed with him stealing the typewriter, rather, because he's just like, that's a stupid thing to steal, they all have a serial number on
Yeah.
them.
And he points out another guy's like, that guy got caught stealing tires, you know?
Yeah, those are, you could easily flip tires. You can't really typewriters got a number on it. A very bad thing to steal.
Yeah.
It kind of puts it into perspective. Like, there are other children out there that just straight up like they know the angle of being a thief, and this kid kind of just blindly stumbled into it, not knowing what the hell he was doing,
Yeah.
and now he's in an environment with all of them. Uh,
Right.
and uh,
There's a subplot earlier on in the movie, like really like looking back and thinking about it, like not it there's not like a lot that happens in this movie,
no,
but
there
you
really
just
isn't.
kind of live with it for like an hour 40 or something, and it's really enjoyable. But there's this subplot that happens of his mom is having an affair with this man and keeps coming home late, and it's not entirely clear why. This is earlier on in the movie.
Yeah.
And on one of the days that Antoine and his friend, whose name is escaping me right now, who he refers to as his friend from back in the bad old days, I think, in Antoine and Colette,
Mm-hmm.
um, they're playing hooky like 2 days in a row. And one of the first day, they're walking in town, and he sees his mom kissing this man, and she has to pretend that she didn't see him, and he has to pretend he didn't see her, and they're hiding it from his dad. But up until that point, we just see the mom being just kind of a soulless bitch to him all the time. um, and after he catches her doing this, she becomes like really endeared to him and tries to stay on his good side.
Yeah.
Uh, Really healthy parenting happening in this film. Um, yeah, I liked that. Well, liked may not be the right word, but um, I found that development aesthetically pleasing. I don't know.
Yeah. Uh, Not really sure how much else I have to say about the 400 Blows.
Check it out. It's on Criterion, I think on a Max, I want to say. I mean, it's regularly on the Sight and Sound Critics poll of the greatest films ever made. It was ranked 50th this last year and 33rd in the director's poll of the same list.
Mhm.
Widely considered to be one of the best films ever made. Probably true. Um, I quite liked it. Uh, at least on the Wikipedia here, there's probably way more, but people that cited as an influence include Akira Kurosawa, Louis Buñuel, Satyajit Ray. I don't know how to. I think I pronounced that right. Steven Spielberg, John Cocteau, Carl Theodore Dreyer, Richard Linklater, like I said, Tsai Ming Lang, Woody Allen, Richard Lester, P.C. Serum, whoever the fuck that is, Norman Jewison, who just passed away recently, Wes Anderson, and Nicolas Cage. So, and I think you were listening to a Lloyd Kaufman thing talking about Kaede Cinema.
Yeah, he was being interviewed, and he was, after he said Cahiers de Cinema, he kind of jokingly said like, "Oh yeah, I know a little French," and then he referred to it as a useless language.
I hear a lot about. Of course, there's like the story of like Ayn Rand learning English to write her novels because she wanted to write in English. I always hear this like discussed. It's not just Rand. There are a lot of people that like think of English as like this like towering achievement of human communication, and I'm not disagreeing. I just don't know, but I'm wondering where it comes from.
I think it's just it has, the vocabulary of English is so much larger than some other languages, and I think it's easier to express a lot of ideas in English. Remember we were talking to Dollar. Was it we were talking to Dollar, or was this just some random Russian thing I heard about?
I don't know.
I had the shittiest fucking memory ever. But I'm just gonna say it was Dollar, and if it wasn't, then no one will care because no one fucking knows anything on the internet. And he basically, the point that was made was that like it's easier to express the emotion of like suffering, or you know what, this was fucking Lex Friedman, I think. This is a clip that I saw on Twitter. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think he was talking about how like in Russian, like because they've just had centuries of the shittiest, most miserable existence ever, like all of their poetry is very much like about suffering and stuff like that. So the way that they can describe sadness and all these other negative experiences are so much more like robust, and it's kind of like how the Inuit have like a billion words for snow. It's like the Russians have like they have the most minute different types of suffering down in their art. The way they can describe it. That's kind of I can't believe I thought that was something that Dollar was telling me about. No, it was a fucking Lex Friedman clip.
Yeah, we reveal ourselves as midwits by quoting Lex Friedman.
That's tragic too, because I fucking hate that guy. We're keeping it.
I like a couple of the episodes with like Yaron and Michael Malice, but like other than that, he's like Joe Rogan, but like terrible.
He's Joe Rogan if Joe Rogan was just like a dumb hippie who's just like, can't we all just like be friends?
Yeah. Although Joe Rogan is kind of a dumb hippie, but
I guess. But he's the dumb
different kind of
hippie
dumb
that like shoots a bow and like kills things.
Yeah. He's the dumb himbo hippie.
Yeah. And Lex Friedman is just like naive,
the fucking nerd
naive
robot
to the point of being like just embarrassing. So yeah, that's the 400 blows. Brief tangent about the Russian language.
And our midwit podcast listening.
Internet content consumption habits. And onto Antoine and Colette, which,
speaking of content consumption,
this one was probably the most depressing of the three.
Because
like this one is basically the Megamind no bitches meme.
I think I said when we were I think we were watching this and I said this is someone had mentioned like the r/relationship subreddit, and I said this is basically an r/relationship post as a movie.
It's
rough.
It's essentially just like Antoine is now a bit older.
Oh, he is 20. I thought he was 17, but according to this, he's 20.
Yeah, he's a bit older, and he finds this lady. He keeps going to the opera, and he's listening to music, and he keeps finding this lady there, and he really likes her, and she's like around his age, So he starts like pursuing his values. He starts trying to form a relationship with this lady, and
She's a
whose
sexy
name?
woman, and
Yeah. God no, we don't need to start with the freaking You're Wrong Brooke shit. She's a woman. She's very
sexy,
sexy and
not trans,
not trans, not confused, not mentally disturbed. She's a woman, and her name is Colette. And he starts pursuing a relationship with her, and it's very clear like the entire time that she doesn't like him, but she like tolerates his presence.
Right.
And he shows up at her house, and her parents like him.
Yeah,
Her parents
which is
like
the
him a
worst
lot.
part. Like the worst part is the parents like.
Yeah, that is the saddest part, because like
yeah,
the like ultimate expression of how like fucked up this short is at the end when she leaves with the other guy, and then he's just watching TV with her parents after she left.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that
I
sucks.
just want to fucking blow my brains out as I'm thinking of all of the non-relationships I had as a teenager that ended similarly.
It's not good.
This one hit too close to home, guys.
It's not good. And the parents seem really cool too, which is like the worst part.
Yeah.
Because it's there's like a point where he's like in her room, and he's just like he's basically just like telling her to just tell him to fuck off, basically.
Yeah.
He's like, would you just do it already? Like, and I didn't even really catch that much of a glimpse of the guy that she left with at the end of the movie. I was a little distracted at that moment, but it does say that he's an older man, which is yikes.
Also, many such cases.
Yeah, that's probably why the parents liked him, was because it was a boy her age that was around, and she probably has a history of dating older men, and the parents are like, let's just hope that she keeps this little beta orbiter around.
That's a blast from the past.
Yeah.
Beta orbiter.
Yeah. There really isn't too much to say about this one, because it's like a 30-minute just like.
I was just talking to some people on this one guy in another server I'm in about how much I hate short films.
Yeah. Your Letterboxd review of this was like, I guess short films can be good.
Yeah. And this one's pretty good. Generally, like the good short films are like in a anthology like this,
mm-hmm.
or they're part of like an anthology series like Twilight Zone or something like that. But yeah, my experience with short films is, and I've made one, is that they're not good. Although I don't feel bad about the short film I made. It can only go so far. The one piece of like constructive criticism I got from it, well, I got a few things, but was like it felt incomplete, and I just kind of like feel that way about most short films.
Right.
Yeah, it's certainly an interesting watch. Again, it's on Criterion. If you have the Criterion channel, I subscribed for a year this time because I didn't want to pay monthly.
Right.
And
they give you a bit of a discount if you go with the yearly, don't they?
Yeah, like a month off, basically. Yeah, that's Truffaut. Based on it's largely autobiographical, as this whole series is, based on a 17-year-old Truffaut's infatuation with an unconventional beauty named Liliane Litvin.
He dropped her whole fucking her name and everything.
Yeah, he met her at the Cinémathèque Française and quit his job as a welder and moved to Paris to be near her. Oh my god, he actually did this shit. Like Antoine, he took an apartment across the street from her so he could monitor her activities. He had a whole like Hitchcock stalker face. However, she ultimately was not interested in him nor any of his friends. She had attracted attention from Jean Gruel and Jean-Luc Godard. Fuck.
all the fucking, they were Pepe Le Pew in her ass.
Yeah. So like he didn't like any of his friends except like the high achieving ones.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh man,
That's
this
that's
one,
that's fucking great. That
this is fucked.
that's why this short film felt so real, is because he literally just based it off of his affection towards someone, like for real, and even
Yeah,
down to like having an apartment across the street. Um,
that's crazy. I just found that out live right now.
you're telling me now for the first time,
Yeah.
and he was a beta orbiter. Wow. Um, yeah, the whole thing with the parents is really funny because there was a particular shot in this that I when I think of it, it's besides the shot of them all looking at the TV and smoking cigarettes, is he's in his apartment on the other side of the street, and the camera is like panning between their apartment and his apartment, and you see the parents are like waving out the window at him, like the parents really like him.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think there's at one point the like voiceover that it has describes it as his her parents basically adopted him.
right, because his parents were real shit when he was a
Yeah, yeah.
youngster. So,
And he doesn't talk to them anymore basically.
right, right. Uh, Yeah, I don't think there's much else to say about this. It's just based off of his actual attempts to court a woman, and it didn't work,
Yeah.
as it often doesn't.
There's
And
a cool scene because he works at a record label. It shows how records were pressed.
oh yeah, and he's
Uh,
like smushing it in the fucking thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was kind of cool.
What a strange technology that humans figured out, like grooves in like a material it can capture the essence of like a particular sound. And it's like
Yeah,
it's such a bizarre like analog way of capturing audio.
it's weird how like analog technology feels like more magical
It does.
than like digital technology.
Yeah, it's because we're more detached from the magic of digital technology, where like some sorcerer
Yeah,
is like imbuing electrical power into like copper fucking
yeah,
lines on a piece of green.
yeah. And
Not even
there's
referring to the material as what it is. It's a piece of green, the circuit board.
right, yeah. It's that's an interesting
It's fucking wizardry.
connection. Yeah, that it's green, the Wizard of Oz. You know.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's the Emerald City on my fucking computer,
Yeah,
powering it while I'm playing a fucking game.
but it's just like less pretty.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, I was talking to a coworker of mine about the Wizard of Oz, and she described it as like really scary.
yeah,
Um, and I've heard this before, like specifically talking about like the monkeys and the witch, especially when you see it as a kid. I think I watched it as a kid. I don't remember much of it. I basically know it because of its like um ever presence in like pop culture more than actually seeing the movie.
yeah.
Um, yeah, might be a subject of a future episode. I kind of want to read those L. Frank Baum books, the kids' books he made.
Mhm.
He wrote. Anyway, different topic. Uh, Stolen Kisses. This is the third entry and or second, depending on how you count the short.
Yeah,
Um,
and the Shapirification of Antoine Doinel is nearing
I forgot
completion.
about Shapiro.
Yeah, he's like slowly morphing into like a like Ben Shapiro, like Turning Point USA kind of guy in his appearance, and
Yeah, this is a movie about how you become a right wing grifter online.
a little bit of Michael Knowles in there, you know? just peppered in. Um,
This is actually about Jeremy Boring.
yeah,
By the way.
yeah. He uh, this one has, despite the other movie being like a very painful depiction of like a guy trying to pursue a relationship that just doesn't work. This one also has like many awkward moments where like his signature move is to just try and kiss a lady and then it doesn't work and then
Yeah,
nothing happens. And it's like maybe
yeah,
you should
and
not do that.
he does this thing where he like grabs like the top part of their head
Yeah.
with both hands and goes for the kiss, and like he's like got his like arms stretched out while he's doing it, and it looks like
Yeah.
really like retarded. And then he just goes for it, and like everyone's just like, "What are you doing?
Like
What has happened?"
don't do that.
Yeah, and like he pushes like Christine, who's the girl, that he's in love, kind of in love with here, and then they eventually kind of consummate some kind of relationship. Um, who is supposed to be the subject of the next two films that we'll talk about next week.
Oh boy.
Um, yeah, this one is. It feels more like something with a plot than the last two,
Yeah.
which I don't think it's quite as good as the 400 Blows as just a piece of filmmaking.
No.
Um,
No.
but it's entertaining. It's a fun little watch. It's a romantic comedy, basically, with a little bit of a dramatic thriller
Yeah.
uh,
The
thing
whole kind
happening.
of thing with this one is like his inability to hold down a job.
Yeah,
Like he starts off like the very beginning, he's like in the military or something. Um, he's like discharged from the army, uh, and I mean, you know what? The guy that discharges from the army honestly didn't even seem like much of a hard ass about it, which was kind of
yeah.
funny.
He
Like,
was just kind of like matter of fact, like, yeah, you suck. Like, what are you doing?
yeah. Usually, when someone is like, you imagine the military type in a movie, they're going to be like, "You're the fucking biggest piece of shit. Get the fuck out of here."
Like in Full Metal Jacket is
Yeah,
the
yeah.
one dude. Yeah.
But it seems the French military, they just smoke a cigarette and they're like, get the fuck out of here.
So like French everything,
Yeah,
basically.
they really mellowed out since World War One when they killed like a shit ton of their own soldiers for desertion. Like
Yeah.
that was like the French thing, right?
Yeah.
That's what they were known for in World War One, is just killing their own soldiers for desertion. Like holding,
Yeah.
they had like the most amount of trials of any like Allied power for desertion and executing their own men.
Yeah. So
So
he
stark contrast from how laissez-faire, to throw in some French, they are in about his discharge in this
yeah.
movie.
He uh I forgot laissez-faire was French.
Yeah.
I just say like laissez-faire capitalism like it's English.
Right. It's like
um
smorgasbord.
yeah, yeah. Or mise en scène,
Yeah.
which is interesting that
Don't ask me why smorgasbord was the first example that popped into my head.
I mean based. I
Yeah.
the last week the movie I talked about Yamon Yamon was like all about food and sex and stuff. So smorgasbord was more applicable there. Um the I just lost my train of thought. Fuck. Oh yeah. Okay. He gets discharged from the military and goes immediately to a hotel where hookers are. And I just only mentioned this because there's a really funny scene when he's trying to get with this hooker, but the hooker's like, I don't want to take off my clothes. Or and then and then she's like, it's extra for like sucking your dick or something. I don't know. There was just this whole like Byzantine rules that he was gonna have to follow to get something. And then by the end he just like walks out. It's like, nah, I'm done. And I think another one comes by and he hooks up with her or something. Um at one point he goes back home to Christine's family, I think. And it's a little confusing because like the last movie there was Colette, who was kind of the romantic interest, and we jump forward in time. I want to say probably about 5 or 6 years, about the same time as like the distance between the two movies.
Mhm.
Um, and he's had this like on again, off again relationship with Christine, who at first I was like, is this like Colette but renamed and recast? And it was confirmed no, because Colette appears in an uncredited cameo basically later on in the movie, um, as part of a married couple that had a kid. Um, and he goes back home to Christine's family. Christine's dad gets him a job as like a night clerk at a motel, where he is found reading this novel by um, what's it called? Oh. Cornell Woolworth, I want to say is the author's name, and I can't remember the name of it, but it was a year after this movie that book Truffaut adapted into a movie called Mermaid Paradise or something.
Mm.
I don't know, something mermaid with I want to say it was Catherine Deneuve. I want to say, um, yeah. So he did a little Marvel tease of his next movie in this movie. Later on, he's reading some more Balzac, so calling back to the 400 Blows. Um, he quickly loses this job because a private detective is like casing out the joint because there is a guy who's having this affair that he's trying to follow, and then
Yeah,
the
and he like
guy,
lets him in.
yeah,
He aids in the guy violating the privacy of the people at the hotel.
yeah,
And gets
yeah,
fired as a person at the hotel. But he does end up joining with the private detective guy,
yes, yeah,
and becoming like a sort of student under his mentorship. And there's
yeah,
a pretty funny montage of them like going around and trying to like snoop on people, and he's really bad at
yeah.
it.
He's terrible.
He's terrible
He's like,
at tailing people.
yeah, he's just totally failing upward. Just looking on this, the budget on this was $350,000.
Oh,
So that's wow. That's probably like a good mill in today's money.
I
Uh,
suppose.
yeah. Uh, did they have budget figures for the other ones? No, not really. That's weird. Anyway,
Yeah, pretty great
he,
montage sequence. There's a couple in
yeah,
this that are pretty funny.
the funniest scenes by far are like him like tailing this woman, and he's like fucking terrible at it. And
Yeah, or
then
he's like hiding behind the tree, and like there are shots of him like
yeah,
poking his head out from either side, and then like she's coming back out, and he stumbles back behind the tree. It's like
yeah,
awful.
it's
Uh,
terrible. It's like what do people call that? Cringe comedy or something? Like,
yeah, he's like a cartoon character in his inability to be inconspicuous.
yeah,
Um, and like one of the things he's doing while undercover as like a private detective, he's like working at the shoe store. Um,
yes,
he's not very good at that either.
no,
Like, this entire movie is just a guy who can't do anything, doing
yeah.
many different things.
I guess you could say it's like it's Truffaut like embracing his Hitchcock fandom and making like an everyman type,
Mm.
but he's like retarded
He's
and like
retarded.
incapable of doing anything. Um, I wonder if he's like making some kind of comedic point about himself of being unable to do like basic shit, and um, I don't know, can't relate. TBH, I um, what else? Oh yeah, the wife of the, I guess it's the, is it the person he's casing with, pretending to be the stock boy, or is that just the cover for the person? At some point, like the like
Well,
crime caper part of this movie just kind of loses me, and I don't really know what's
yeah.
happening.
All I know is there's like an older lady that he likes.
Yeah,
Um, and
and it's the
there's like
wife. It's the
what?
wife of the guy that owns the shoe store. I know that,
Yeah, yeah.
but
And at that point, he tells Christine like there are so many points in this where he's like talking to her on the phone, and he's only doing it out of an obligation because like he hasn't talked to her in like 1,000 years, and he's just like I gotta call her. and then
yeah,
and then he immediately sees some other people walking down the sidewalk, and he's like I gotta let you go. And then he like hangs up on her.
yeah.
And then
And he
he's like
loses the guy he's tailing.
he's walking with Christine at one point, and he basically like turns to her, and he's like, yeah, I never really admired you, and you got to really admire someone that you love. So you know what, I never really admired you all that much. And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, just pure gibberish coming out of this guy's mouth as he's trying to like he has like this sort of confidence about him, because he likes like the wife of the shoe shop guy. I don't
Yeah.
know. It started to lose me at that point.
He hooks up with the wife of the shoe store owner. That was pretty fun.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, then he gets fired, becomes a TV repairman, gets in a wreck with Christine's dad. Um, and for some reason, there's this guy that's been following Christine, but you think he was following. Um, if I at least I thought he was following um, Antoine.
Yeah, he's just
I
this
don't know.
random dude. You see him like a couple times in the movie, or at least I saw
Yeah,
him. I saw him at least once, and
yeah,
then
once or twice, and he
uh,
comes at the end and like tells Christine that he's in love with him. Um,
with her.
Not unlike yeah, he's in love with her. Not unlike
She's
this
not
scene.
transgender.
Yeah,
Um,
not unlike this scene from fucking what was it called? I just watched it last week. Why am I forgetting the name of this movie? So Robin Williams, really famous movie.
Goodwill Hunting.
Um,
I don't know.
Not that one.
Fuck.
Um, Dead Poets Society. Dead
Oh yeah,
Poets
yeah.
Society. Yeah. And this one guy like goes to this girl's classroom and like professes his love for her and reads a poem. It was kind of similar to that, except this guy, this French guy, is portrayed as crazy, which he kind of is, and the guy in Dead Poets Society is really not.
Right.
Um, yeah, I don't know. It's I think it's overall better than the short, but it's quite a step down from the 400 Blows, I have to say, as far
Yeah.
as like a cohesive work. Some interesting stuff though. I overall liked it.
Yeah. I would say that it was a decline. 400 Blows, then Antoine and Colette, then Soul and Kisses. None of them were bad. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
but I think the 400 Blows was the most enjoyable experience of all of them.
Mhm.
Uh, I'm curious to see where it'll go with the next two movies that we're doing next week.
Yeah, I read I think it was on a Letterboxd review of the last one, which is Love on the Run,
Mhm.
that apparently there's like 30 minutes of it that's just devoted to like previous scenes of the other movies. So it's like Friday the 13th Part 2.
Oh man, that movie is legitimately so fucking bad for that.
Yeah.
Like the plot of Friday the 13th Part 2 is so paper thin
Yeah.
that like and not just the plot, because not all of them are paper thin as far as the plot is concerned, but like if they didn't even have the money to like shoot a movie that was like a fucking hour long.
Yeah.
They just had to throw in like a good 25 minutes of the previous movie.
Yeah.
Awful.
Apparently Love on the Run is something like that. So
Looking forward to that.
eek. Hopefully it's a little better than that, but overall I think these are all worth watching regardless.
Sure.
There's some good stuff in Stolen Kisses that make it worthwhile. I liked it overall. Um, uh, Anything else? I don't think so. I think that we will call that there. We'll be back next week with it'll be Love and Board and Love on the Run. I want to, or Bed and Board and Love on the Run.
Yeah.
The Truffaut films, and like us on YouTube, follow us on all of your podcast platforms, on
Yeah.
Twitter as well.
Leave a comment,
We're
like the
there,
video.
all that jazz.
I'm
Leave a
sure. I'm
review.
sure Buffo the Art Clown has already commented.
Yeah,
By this point in the video, unless you know
yes,
what, I might be underestimating the man. He might watch the whole thing before he leaves a comment.
yeah, yeah.
Might be
He's
principled on that. No.
might be a real G there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Uh, did I miss anything?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, leave a review on the podcast platforms. I
Right,
don't
right.
know if that's happened yet, but yeah, we will be back next week with some more Truffaut. Thanks for joining.
Yep. See you next time.